Hey, pizza people, welcome back. Hope you've been keeping it cheesy. We've actually got quite the interesting cheesy deck for you today. This is actually TEMUR Titan. So essentially, this deck list got second place in our latest event on Sunday at the PizzaBox Open Standard. The deck is mainly built around primarily a lot of blue-red cards that you've seen in the past in some previous iterations. But a lot of the thing that the deck's trying to do is get a Fable of the Mirror Breaker down into the Reflection of Kiki Jiki and kind of just get this Titan Industry copied over and over again. And overall, the strategy is just to slam a Titan Industry and kind of just take the victory from there after controlling some of the game in the early portion. To kind of help with controlling the game here, we have two Fading Hopes, which kind of help bounce some creatures around. Kind of help stabilize the board a little bit, at least gain you some life in terms of getting rid of some threats that may potentially be trying to deal you lots of damage, and the fact that it gets scries. Additionally, if that was a token or anything that's 3 or less is kind of just phenomenal overall. Flame Blessed Bolt is just a great card as well. That's kind of been showing up a good amount in main decks and sideboards because of Tenacious Underdog. Spikefield Hazard can play the role of a land or essentially getting rid of any 1 toughness creature as well. Dry Disruptions also playing the role of a land and potentially countering something if our opponent doesn't have any available mana to pay for the 1 there. Negate, just a great card overall in this metagame considering there's tons of Planeswalkers. Same with Dragon's Fire, even though Dragon's Fires can essentially target a creature or a Planeswalker. The Negate can kind of just counter any type of non-creature spell to either protect some of the cards in the deck or stop the game plan of what our opponent's trying to do. We have one of Thunder and Rebuke here to kind of help round out the removal suite, essentially, with the one of Prismari Command as well. The Prismari Command kind of helps us dig deep, helps us ramp with the treasure to get to our spells faster, and can get rid of any problematic artifact or another creature. And even finish the game off if we need to with that last 2 damage. One of Bankbuster kind of help grind the game out a little bit here. Just a nice little kind of, if we remember from past standards, kind of like a tome type card. Helps you draw. Then eventually makes a token and a treasure as well to either help you cast more of your spells or to crew the Bankbuster to start attacking. We also have 4 Expressive Iteration if you're playing blue and red and you're not playing this card, there may be something wrong with you, as this is one of the best cards in Standard overall. We also have 2 Eureka Moment to kind of help us get some card draw and put some additional lands into play to help ramp us into our Titan Industry, or even some of our other bigger spells like a Goldspan Dragon, which we all know Goldspan's an all-star. If you've seen it already, you remember from some of our previous videos here on YouTube. We also have Burn Down the House and a Battle of Frost and Fire, which kind of help round out our 5 drops, kind of our big drops here. Just some good sweepers. Burn Down the House can also be an alternative win condition as well. Battle of Frost and Fire is great because you get to scry 3 on the second one, and in the last one you kind of get some value when you cast some of your bigger spells. We also have one of Galazeth Prismari to kind of help round the deck out a little bit here. Decent 4-drop that can help you if you have some treasures lying around, kind of cast some of your other spells. And yeah, kind of just cool overall, especially with the Goldspan, kind of just ramp into some of your other cards. And so far, I'm not really sold on it myself, I'm not going to lie. This is a card that I feel like you can kind of replace with some other kind of stronger card, maybe like the 4th Goldspan or another Burn Down the House main deck. Prismari Command, maybe even to kind of ramp. So you kind of have some options there. The Galazeth wasn't that crazy. A lot of the time that we ended up playing it, the game was pretty much over because we kind of ramped out fast anyway. So I'm not sure if like it was because of this card or is because we're already doing so much. But I feel like this could almost be anything else. Same with like the Spikefield is very like meta dependent. So far, like in the games that we played with the deck, we didn't really run into needing to use it. If anything, we kind of sided it out sometimes on the draw. For the mana base here, let's go ahead and hide the sideboard for a moment. We have one of Hall of the Storm Giants to kind of help close out some games, considering we end up having a lot of mana sometimes in the deck. An Otawara to kind of help bounce some things. Speaking of bouncing, before we get with the rest of the lands, Fading Hope and Otawara kind of help protect your Goldspan in a way. Kind of just bounce it. We kind of had some really cool plays in the video where you see us bounce a Goldspan, get some mana, do some other crazy things in the turn. And Otawara kind of just helps protect the Goldspan in general, where you're playing a card that they can't necessarily counter or respond to in like a good way. So Otawara, just a great card overall. We have some basics here, 1 of each. 4 of the red and blue pathway. Couple of Stormcarved Coasts, 4 Crack Crown pathways, 4 Rockfall Veils, 3 Bark Channel pathways. All these kind of help with our green here to make sure we can cast our Titan Industry on time. Same as the Dream Root Cascade, so decent mana base there. For our sideboard, we have the extra Fading Hope, a couple more Flame Blessed Bolts, 3 Disdainful Strokes for any of these Planeswalker decks or anything that's trying to pay off with some big spells. 1 of Test of Talents to kind of just help us break through with some of our cards and kind of just help get rid of any problematic spells like Magma Opus even. An additional Reckoner Bankbuster kind of help grind the game out. An extra Prismara Command to kind of either ramp or get rid of some of those problematic permanents, even filter through the deck. A Tamiyo's Completion gets rid of, essentially, you can kind of lock down some of the Planeswalkers that are around or just any kind of problematic permanent in general. A couple of Seaga's Chariots to kind of help grind out the game or even go over the top with the tokens from Titan Industry or the Fable. We also have an extra Burn Down the House. So my only change of the deck was there were 3 Hullbreaker Horrors, but instead I decided I wanted the additional board sweep considering we're going on to the ladder. And the 2 Hullbreakers kind of just phenomenal card against control and kind of just a bonkers card overall, especially in this deck. We actually have a decent amount of cheap cards that we can kind of interact and use with the Hullbreaker Horrors. So overall, I actually think this deck is like really nuts. I think it's well positioned right now. You have a lot of great cards like Goldspan and Titan Industry to just slam and kind of just take over the game. And once you start to get the Fable going with the Titan itself, it's kind of just like disgusting. So I honestly think this deck is great to take to any tournament. It actually got 2nd place, ended up losing to a Rafine deck in the finals, an Esper deck. But yeah, take this deck onto the ladder, take this deck to any tournament. I think you're going to have a great chance. The only thing I suggest with the deck is that you take a lot of patience playing it because there's a lot of lines that you won't see right away. And there's a lot of things that kind of don't seem obvious either. So I think that you definitely want to slow it down a little bit when you're playing this. Take into consideration all the lines that you could possibly do. And you shouldn't really have a problem kind of rolling over some opponents and kind of just really just ranking up pretty quickly like we did. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, comment down below whatever you think on the deck. Any other suggestions that you have about it as well would be great. Definitely check out our tournament this weekend. It's going to be historic on Sunday, free to play cash prizes. And let's get to the gameplay. All right, let's jump back on the ladder with this TEMUR Titan deck. This deck's pretty sweet. Feels really awesome to just be slamming some haymakers down. Getting some relevant creatures on the board. This hand is actually somewhat questionable, but obviously, like, the payoff is pretty high for it. We have 2 Goldspans in our hand. The Fable could potentially get us there. We're on the draw, so we have plenty of chance to draw this 3rd land for the Fable. We have 2 interactive spells, so I actually think I'm going to keep it. Being on the draw does make this keep a lot less painful, just because we get more chances at hitting a land drop, but at the same time, obviously, we're going to be a bit back on the tempo for a moment. We're actually going to start off with the Spikefield Hazard, so that way we can cast all of our cards on time here. Probably cast this Hall of the Storm Giants. Followed up. I think we're actually just going to pass a turn here, hold up this negate. Okay, they have another creature here, so it looks like our opponent's going to try to get aggressive. I think it's okay bouncing the adversary to save ourselves some damage here and to be able to get that scry in. Do we want a 2nd Fable? I don't believe so. I'd rather be top decking lands to get to the Goldspan sooner. We had a Prismari Command, so Prismari Command does kill something. Do we just want to go for double red now? I think we might want to. A little bit awkward, but I want to make sure I hit this Goldspan. I think I'd also rather keep up this Prismara Command and make a treasure token, so that way if we do hit our 4th land drop, we are able to just cast this Goldspan and kind of keep up some of our counter spells. I'm actually fine taking the 2 damage here, just because we know that they have Blood Tithe Harvester. And I'd rather shoot that down, because it's more of a better target. We don't want it to end up killing our Goldspans and us not getting any treasures for it, so let's go ahead and shoot that down, get a treasure token here. untap. So we hit an expressive iteration, which is fine. I think that we do want to do that just because we dig 3 cards deep and we hit all lands. So let's go ahead and grab the dual lands, put this into our library, grab the Rock Veil. And I actually think I'm just going to go ahead and shoot this down just because that's the only thing that our opponent has going on right now. And then next turn we can kind of start the Goldspan train. Looks like the opponent just replaces the adversary with another one. We'll take 2 damage here. Go down to 14. Ooh, Galazeth is actually kind of a bit of a nice draw here just because it's more damage in the air, but the Goldspan, yeah, we're going to Goldspan, Galazeth, make another treasure token, then hold up the negate to be able to counterspell anything that they play to interact with our dragon. So either way, we got to cast all of our cards out in the same turn if our opponent hadn't conceded. So it looks like we're playing against Grixis Vampires potentially here. I think that we may want this burn down the house just because we're kind of able to wipe the board a lot better. I like this Battle of Frost. Not sure if I want to keep it. I'll remove it for the burn down for right now. Galazeth was actually pretty sweet there. Kind of a nice play setup, but at the same time, I still think that we might want to cut it considering that we're on the draw. It's a bit of a slower card, specifically on the draw as well. In terms of what else we may want to get rid of, the Spikefield Hazard doesn't really look like it's going to have any premium target, so we want to get rid of that. We could almost bring in our Flame Blessed Bolts knowing that they are trying to be that aggressive or that they have that many 2 toughness creatures. Potentially maybe even cutting a Dwyer Disruption could be correct as well considering that we are on the draw. But it is another land, so maybe we don't want to cut that many lands out of the deck. Our counterspells in order. I don't really believe so. I think I can hold up this negate. Or excuse me, keep these negates in the deck. Do we want to go over the top? I don't believe so yet. Will Titan be enough this matchup? Do we want the Prismari command? I guess the Prismari command is actually fine. I think I'll actually bring in the other one. I kind of like 2 for 1 and just getting a 2 toughness card and then getting a treasure just seems really good. Yeah, Chariot's definitely an option. I just don't think that this is the matchup where we want Chariot. Just because we're kind of a little bit more control on our side, at least from what we've seen from the opponent. This hand's okay. I'm actually going to keep it. It's a bit risky just because we have a lot of top end. But drawing a land there was pretty phenomenal. We'll start off with the coast. Just because we're able to cast either the Dragon's Fire or the Jwari if we draw an untapped land and then kind of keep it going from there. It looks like they have an underdog. We do draw an untapped land. I think I would rather play this as a red. Let's see here. I think we just want untapped land. Either way, I'm just trying to see what side that we want it on. We need triple green eventually, but we do have Goldspan. I think I'm okay taking this risk a little bit. Especially considering we have another green source next turn. Still have mana to cast the spells that we need to cast. Let's see if our opponent gets a 3-drop. I'm okay taking 3 damage here just to see if they have a spell that maybe we can counter and they don't. I think we'll go ahead and just bounce this to try to hit more lands off the top, smooth our draw a little bit. Our opponent also just has nothing left in play as well. They may end up using some of their mana next turn to replay the card that we know about. Did hit another blue source here. I think it's okay to still play this and just pass the turn. We'll keep up this Jwari Disruption in case they try to cast like a 4-drop. Might just play the underdog again, though, it looks like, considering the type of mana they have. But they actually opt for the Chariot. And we do get them with this Jwari Disruption. And we drew a Fable. Do we want to play the Fable? Let's see here. I think that we do, just because we're a little bit short on mana. And then we can play this as a blue source. Even if they play the underdog here, we can still attack with our Goblin Shaman and make a treasure token. Really want to hit our 5th land, though, because we'll be able to gold span, plus keep up the Dragon's Fire, which will be pretty nice. Okay, our opponent does find their 2nd black source here. They do have 5 cards left, so they do have probably a slew of options here. You would imagine potentially one of the cards in their hand is still land. So let's say they have 4 spells, one that we know about. And it looks like they're actually just going to go for the 2-for-1 here with this Unleash the Inferno, which is a phenomenal card. But we do draw another untapped source here, so we're able to get this Gold Span Dragon down, come in for 4. And if the Gold Span lives, then we'll be able to get this Titan of Industry down. Let's say our opponent actually targets the Gold Span on their turn. Ooh, Ren, okay. So they'll go ahead and get a 5/5 here. Yep, seems pretty good. Okay, so we can cast Titan. So I actually still think we want to cast the Titan here. I'm just going to do this now so we're able to do it. Okay, shield counter here. And then we're going to go ahead and attack the Ren. We'll get a treasure token. So our dragon has to get blocked, but we'll also shoot down the tree folk, and our dragon actually gets protected from the shield counter. So we still get to get rid of the tree folk in a somewhat smooth manner, even though it costs us a card. The Ren isn't as threatening considering that they can't just make a token. And they went ahead and milled 3 really good cards off their deck, so we're kind of happy about that. Okay. See what our opponent has here. So they have a Workshop, War Chief, pretty good card, gain them some life. We do have another Gold Span, though, here. And let's see, block 3. So we're actually just going to come here. And no, we want to come in. How do we want to attack? I feel like that's probably right, though. Come in here with the Titan. I guess either way this dies, and this is the most damage. Yeah, let's just do that instead. So let's go ahead and kill the Ren in 7. They'll trade with our token, getting a token on their side of the battlefield. And they still can't get a me hook down to kind of get them out of the game. They have a Briar Bridge Tracker, pretty good card. Lots of value there. It looks like they're pretty much tapping out for some blockers, so yeah, the obvious thing is that they actually don't have any flying blockers, so I think our Gold Spans kind of just get in here for the win. They have one card that we don't know about. We're just going to come in with the squad here. Make a couple more treasures. See how they block. If they like double block the Titan, then we're kind of able to just blow them out even more. And it looks like that's what they're going to do. They're kind of just dead to the Gold Span, right? They don't have any other way to kind of do anything about it, I don't think. I'll just do this for good measure. And our opponent's going to scoop it up. Went ahead and took that game down. That was awesome. This deck's sweet. See you next match. So we are slamming some Titans, slamming some Gold Spans, getting some treasures here. This deck is pretty sweet. Let's go ahead and see if we can keep up some of the pace here on our opponents. We're on the play. This hand is actually pretty decent. We have a redraw on turn 3 to hit some more land drops. 3 interaction spells, a ramp spell pretty much. This is pretty much going to be really great for the tempo here. So let's see if we can keep it going. Yeah, I think I'm just going to start off with the Hall of the Storm Giants here. And then we can Crack Crown next turn as a red source and then have the other one as a green. Still be able to potentially Prismari command something. And we have this Drawer Disruption to interact with our opponent if they try to cast something on turn 2. Depending on what it is. And we actually end up drawing our third source here as a dual land. We do have this, but playing this down as 2 colors gives us different options. I think I'm just going to wait it out here and pass a turn. We have 2 expressive iterations. I don't think I want to pop one off yet. I'd rather pop one off and hold the disruption if we're given the option of having blue mana. Opponent's not really doing much. We could potentially just get a redraw with the Prismari command, but I think I'm just going to show some patience here, and we'll go for the expressive iteration. And I think that we just want another gold span. I could be wrong. Let's grab... We have a chance of getting more Titans. Put this into our library and this into my exile zone. Play it. And we'll go ahead and pass the turn. I think I just like gold span into gold span and then Prismari command or even the expressive can get us another Titan of Industry. And we'll go ahead and draw Disruption this wedding announcement. Get to untap. We'll play the mountain that we were able to save this Crack Crown pathway longer in case we do want that triple green naturally for the Titan here. And we'll go ahead and deal some damage. Pass the turn back to our opponent. Looks like they're kind of stuck on 3 mana. And they're going to go ahead and pack it up here. Do we really want to sideboard anything? Let's take a look at see what cards they really played. Just the wedding announcement by itself. So they could, there's a lot of things that they could end up being. They're like Celestia. They could even be splashing a 3rd color that we don't know about. Potentially a Storm the Festival type deck. I think that it may end up being safe to potentially put in another sweeper over like the Galazeth Prismari. Or maybe even like a Hullbreaker, just because Hullbreaker helps against our opponent having a lot of tokens or just a lot of things on the board. You could also make an argument for Disdainful Stroke if you're really thinking that they could have like a Wandering Emperor. At the end of the day, we didn't really see much, so there isn't really much of an argument for us to kind of like over sideboard or even put in some cards based on us thinking that our opponent could have some other cards. I do know that on the draw, we probably want to cut some form of these, so we'll go ahead and cut a Spikefield Hazard. And I do think I'll switch this out for a Burn Down the House, and I'll just bring in the Hullbreaker. I think that we just want to try this out and at least have some edge against some of their tokens with the Hullbreaker itself if we actually get to that part of the late game here. We'll go ahead and keep this hand. This is actually pretty decent. If we get to our 4th land and it being a green source, we'll be able to Eureka Moment. Looks like we may have to lean on this expressive iteration on turn 3 a lot more. Or we could also just play this Fable down, knowing that the token could potentially get us a treasure token. And we end up hitting our 4th land, so I think I'm actually okay just getting the Fable down on the following turn. I think we do want to play this on green, though. That way we can cast the Eureka Moment on time. Ooh, we get a green source regardless, so we don't even need to do that anymore. We can actually kind of hide some of that to our opponent here. It looks like they're Cabaretti, Naya. So it looks like I was right a little bit, at least about them having a 3rd color that we didn't see. I don't think that they necessarily have something on 3 mana that's like a crazy flash card, though. I think we'd rather just play this as a red, knowing that we have 2 green sources here, naturally for a Titan. We'll go ahead and get the Fable of the Mirror Breaker down, get a token, and pass the turn back to our opponent here. Looks like they may have a removal spell for the token, but that's okay. Getting a little bit more information. They have Voltage Surge, so they could potentially have like blood tokens or some kind of artifact cards in their deck. I actually don't really think that we want to get rid of any cards. I could be wrong, but I actually really like our hand. And I'm just going to go ahead and play the forest here as our green source for this Eureka moment at the end of their following turn. We don't necessarily mind either having, or excuse me, playing on the flash side of things, just because we kind of have this burn down the house. So if our opponent ends up committing a lot of cards to the board, then we can kind of just blow them out with this burn down. Which it looks like they could play some more cards into this, which is great for us. So we're going to take 3 damage here. Potentially 4 off of this Luminarch Aspirant resolving. They are going to go ahead and bump up the Samurai. We'll potentially just go down to 16 here. Take the damage. And looks like they have a Fable, so they go ahead and make a token here. We'll just Eureka moment. Get a couple cards. Put a land into play. Get another redraw. We have a Titan coming down eventually. So this Fable is flipping. We can just kill the Wandering Emperor. They will get a 5/5. Is it worth it? That's the question. I think it is, just because we're going to get Titans coming down eventually. So I actually think it's okay. Let's go ahead and just get this down. And I think that what we're doing will end up being better than what our opponent's doing. We still have 16 life, so we can still value our life total to a certain degree. Or excuse me, use our life total to a certain degree. Do we just want to play another Fabled? I actually don't think so. I would rather have as much mana as I can to be able to copy this Titan next turn. Just because we're going to get to gain some of the life back and kind of just clog up the board to be able to deal with some of these threats that are getting a lot larger than some of our cards are naturally. Go ahead and pump the token. So it looks like we're going to go ahead and take 7 damage here. Go down to 9. We're going to keep this reflection because we'll be able to use it with the Titan next turn if it survives. If not, we still do have an active Titan industry here. And it looks like they have a removal for the reflection of Kikijiki. But luckily we do have a Titan. And let's say that they did kill the Goldspan, then still happy about not using all of our mana there the last turn. So I'm going to attack with the Goldspan. Let's see what our opponent does. They could just end up having another Wandering Emperor. Doesn't look like they do. Okay. Let's go ahead, Titan Industry here. Killing the Fable. Okay, so they do have a Wandering Emperor. Are they just going to kill the Goldspan now? I think we just want to do this. Go ahead and blow that up so they don't get it. We'll get a 4/4 Rhino for the board. They're going to exile the Goldspan. Could still Expressive Iteration. I think I'm just going to hold on to this. We haven't played a land yet. And we just get nothing but lands. We need a green one. Let's take, I guess either way we still have a green one here. Let's grab this. Put this into the library, this into exile. Just play this. Kind of in a tough spot here. Okay, gonna keep pumping that up. It's a 6/6 now. No attacks. They still have 2 cards in their hand. We have a negate, which is fantastic. This Otawara just bounces the token. So that doesn't matter. I think that we're just going to attack the Wandering Emperor with the Titan of Industry and see how our opponent blocks. We also have negate. And we kind of just have Otawara here. So it looks like they're just going to let it die. Can't kill this. Do have the bounce spell. The bounce spell costs 4 mana. Do we want to get Fable down? Could Expressive. I think I'm just going to try to say go and counterspell this Wandering Emperor. And then now we still have Titan. They have 2 cards. They have Legion Angel. That's pretty good. We have Burn Down the House if that actually gets out of control. We can bounce the token here. And let's see. So they make that a 4/4. We're going to trade with that card. So let's discard this, bouncing the token to their hand. Trading with the 4/4. Looks like they're just going to Legion Angel here. We have Negate set up well here. I think we just Expressive to try to hit some cards that we're going to need later. We're going to go ahead and put this into our hand. This into our library. This into exile. Play this now. It seems weird, but I don't want to get blown out by them getting this to like 6 toughness or something random. We could Expressive again. I'm not going to do that, though. I think I'd rather hold up the Negate and kind of just chill. We can do both, but I think I'm okay just doing this here. Yep, we'll go ahead and trade with 1. Go down to 5. Let's see if our opponent... So they're going to have 1 Legion Angel left. Okay, so we hit Fable here. Go down to 1. Seems kind of sketchy. But I think I'm just going to Expressive to see what we hit first here. Okay, so we hit a Goldspan and another Burn Down the House. So I'm actually going to put... What do we want to do here? A lot of options. Pretty big choice here. Could take the Goldspan and then burn down the house and have another burn down the house. Let's burn the board here. I'm not going to attack because I don't just want to play into a Wandering Emperor if it resolves. I'd rather them kind of just have the Wandering Emperor in their hand and not be able to really get some value out of it, considering we have a 7/7 trample and it would take up most of their turn. I think now we can cast the Goldspan, which actually gives us more mana to be able to cast our Fable this turn and still be able to hold up this Negate. We have enough green mana. We'll play this as a blue. We'll play the Fable Passage. Or excuse me, Fable Mirror Breaker. And we'll go ahead and pass the turn here, holding up this Negate for any kind of value that we need it for. Kind of just potentially shut the door on our opponent, excuse me. And they have an Amir's Call, which we'll go ahead and negate here. And our opponent's going to pack it up. We'll go ahead and take this match down. See you next match. This deck is sweet. TEMUR Titans putting in some work here. Let's go. Really having a lot of fun playing this deck. Some gold spans. Some 7/7s with trample. You know how it goes. Just a sweet time overall. See what kind of deck we're up against next here. Hope that we have good opening hand. Not sure what changes we might want to make to the deck so far. I know that there's potentially some matchups that I have in mind, and specifically like the mirror match too. I know that the person that played this to second place in our event was having some hard time with the mirror match. And I actually think this hand's keepable. We're able to cast Dragon's Fire. We have a Prismari command, all these cards to interact with our opponent. And we have 3 lands to be able to cast both of these cards until we can get to our 5 mana, which Prismari command is going to ramp us to. So let's go start off with the Spike Field Hazard tapped. We'll probably play the Bark Channel Pathway as a blue source holding up this negate for any shenanigans and or the Dragon's Fire if they potentially play a creature here. It looks like we may be up against an Izzet deck. We'll go ahead and play the Tide Channel, pass the turn back to our opponent. And let's see what they're up to here. So their Jeskai could be the Jeskai Hinata deck from over the weekend, the set championship. Go ahead, pass a turn here, holding up this Prismari command, the negate, and the Jawari Disruption, the Dragon's Fires. We're kind of just loaded on interaction here, so we'll see what our opponent is up to on their turn. We'll go ahead and play a tap land here. I think that we will try to go for the Prismari command. We could loot. I think that looting's fine just because our opponent isn't necessarily doing anything right now. We can kind of get rid of these Battle of Frost and Fires if we don't really need them. See if they have a counterspell. So they just Jawari it. We're okay with that. Not drawing a land kind of hurts, but we do have a Jawari Disruption that we can kind of just get down, and I'm okay with that. This Fading Hope doesn't really seem all that spectacular. And it looks like our opponent has a Fable. We're going to try to negate that. See if our counterspell resolves, and it does. Opponent down to 4 cards. If we draw a red source, we're able to get this gold span down, and we do. Let's go ahead and bring it down, see if it gets countered. It does not. Try to go to combat here. Opponent may have an interactive spell for us. If they do, we have a Fading Hope to bounce the gold span back to our hand to save it from dying here. And it just looks like they're just going to go ahead and phase it out. And I actually think I'm okay with that. We don't really need to worry too much about that. It's going to come back on our turn, so let's see what our opponent's up to here. They have 4 cards. Let's say they have a land. They're down to 3. If 2 of those cards are lands, then they're potentially just down to 2 cards, really. Opponent passing back, playing a Sajiri Shelter. Glacier as the land. We'll go ahead and come in with the Goldspan Dragon here. See if our opponent has another interactive spell. And it looks like they're just going to go ahead and bounce it. We're okay with that. Not a big deal. We'll just replay the dragon. And come in for 4 damage here. Potentially getting another treasure. So now we have 4 mana with our treasures. We have a way to protect our gold span. Draw a disruption to potentially counterspell something that they end up tapping out for. And 2 Dragon's Fires to kill an opposing Hinata. And it looks like our opponent's going to go for a Den of the Bugbear here. I actually think we're just going to go ahead and Dragon's Fire that. No need to choose a dragon, anything like that. Just go ahead, try to deal it some damage. See if our opponent saves it. So it looks like they're just going to go ahead and Fading Hope their own Den of the Bugbear. We could Jawari Disruption. I think that's fine. I think that's okay. We'll just get rid of the Den of the Bugbear permanently. They could have... Okay, so it looks like they're just going to float the red. I was about to say they may potentially just kind of try to kill their own card here. Okay, so yeah, they just paid for it with that. So that's fine. We kind of just ended up using that accidentally there, but it happens. Kind of didn't really think about waiting until combat just because I was trying to snap that off, but I still think that we're in good position right now. A little bit of a waste, but the fact that we drew another Jwari is actually kind of funny as well, considering that it's kind of like throwing it in our face a bit, but the game's still kind of helping us out a little bit. Alright, so back to our turn here. The Skull Span's just going to continue to keep beating down. We have 2 bounce spells now. 2 protected if need be. Get our opponent down to 8 life here, so 2 swings from the dragon kills them. And they have a big score. We cannot counterspell that. And the Jwari is getting a little bit worse, but don't mind holding on to it, considering that we have enough mana to kind of do everything that we need to. Okay, opponent tapping a lot of mana here. Casting their own gold span. And let's see if they attack. If they attack, I guess I don't really care too much about it. They're sacking some mana. They're going to cast this card. They have 1 card left. Let's go ahead and try to kill their gold span. So they have a protection spell. They only have 1 card left. They're sacking their treasures for red. Could be a big score. Okay, Fading Hope. They have 4 red open. That's fine. So I guess they're just going to try to recast the gold span. Sure. They get the token here. They still get to pay for the gold span. I think I'm just going to bounce it here. Okay. Not really hitting any draw spells. It is kind of painful. We could just do this, but I don't think that we want to do it yet. I think we just want to come in for damage, make another treasure. Play this as a land, blue source. And we'll go ahead and pass the turn back. I think we just want to use the Battle of Frost and Fire to try to end the game here by bouncing our gold span and then trying to cast this on the next turn. Okay, gold span. So they have 1 card left. They do have a lot of mana here. We'll go ahead and take 2 damage. And I actually think that we'll go ahead and do this now. Bounce our own gold span. Getting 2 treasure. Play the island. Playing the Battle of Frost and Fire. Try to kill both of their cards. Looks like they just have a way to protect their gold span potentially. Okay, they're just going to Spike Field Hazard, get another treasure. We'll shoot both of their cards down. Play another gold span. And hit them for the last 4. Definitely able to leverage the Fading Hopes here to our advantage. See what we potentially want to sideboard in here. I think we want to just bring in like Our counter spells mostly. Don't think I want to go overboard though. With these disdainful strokes, could get in a lot of trouble considering that. Big scores and gold spans. Could have Hinata in the deck. Didn't see it that game though. Maybe we do want to bring in all of them. I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to say. Bring in these Hull Breaker Horrors. China Industry, still okay, I believe. I think I'd rather have the Burn Down the House rather than the Battle of Frost and Fire, just because we're able to get some devil tokens off of it. We can cut the Spike Field. Bankbuster seems pretty decent. Flame Bless Bolt, not the best card. Prismari Command is still okay. Galazeth, maybe not what we really want here. Still a threat, but I think that we have enough threats. I'd rather just have most of my counter spells. I feel like I just want the other Hull Break Horror over a Titan, even though Titan's decent. I feel like this is just as good if we can just keep bouncing like the Fable. Also, this kind of like helps us a little bit on our mana, so we're not necessarily focused all the time on triple green. Thunder Rebuke seems okay considering that we know what we're up against. Do we still want the Prismari Command? Is the question. Could maybe even shave Fable, but that doesn't seem correct. Let's go ahead. We'll cut this back down. And yeah, we'll actually just... We'll go with the 61 special. I'm not even worried about it, honestly. I can't figure out what to cut because all of our cards are just so good. I still really like the Prismari Command just because it ramps us. It's just such a good card. No blue mana here is obviously... We got a mulligan, especially considering we just have lots of blue cards here. Luckily, we're on the draw. This hand's a lot better. We do have both of our Burn Down the Houses, which is a little bit annoying, but it's not necessarily like the craziest card in the matchup, anything like that, so I think we definitely want to put one back, and the fact that we have this expressive iteration to kind of help smooth our draw is actually pretty phenomenal. And our opponent's going to go ahead and start off with a Den of the Bugbear. We'll just play this as a blue source. We have our red source here, Prismari Command. As well, if we draw an untapped source for turn 3. If not, we still have the expressive iteration to potentially dig us deeper. And we're just going to go ahead and pass the turn here. We have Dragon's Fire to interact with anything that we need to. Opponent's still playing tap lands. We actually draw an untapped mana source here. We can be proactive with this Fable. I actually think it's okay. I don't see anything wrong with it, considering that our opponent's a little bit slower out of the gate. I don't mind just getting the threat down and getting the tempo. So opponent has 4 cards left. Looks like they're going to go ahead and kill our token. That's fine. They put that card to the bottom. And a Fable comes down here. We have Eureka Moment. I think that we want to redraw. Do we need another Fable? I don't believe so. At least not right now. Eureka Moment maybe, but Eureka Moment draws us more cards. Kind of a tough decision, honestly, just because we have so much going on right now. I think we'll go ahead and get rid of the Burn Down the House. It does get rid of like a Hinata or a Gold Span, though. I think Dragon's Fire and the Fable. And we'll pass a turn here. They're going to also do the same, potentially. Look like they just were quick to bottom those lands, so it looks like they kind of just have some medium cards. And Spyfield, yeah, just kind of a medium card in the matchup to begin with. They're going to try to go for an attack. Let's see if this resolves. We'll get a treasure token and try to kill their token. Looks like they have a counterspell. I do have a burn down the house if the game kind of gets a little bit out of control. Need to draw some lands. They just have big score in response. Prismaric Command's going to resolve. We'll get a treasure. We have Titan of Industry. This transforms. I think that we'll go ahead and Expressive try to set up our following turns here. So we'll go ahead and put a Disdainful Stroke into our hand. The Titan will go into our library and we'll exile this land. We will go ahead and actually just play this as another green source, so that way we may be able to potentially get this Titan down. And we'll pass a turn to our opponent with this Disdainful Stroke up to potentially counterspell something big that they try to play. Considering they didn't have a counterspell last turn, they may have drawn into one, but feeling a little bit better knowing that they didn't have one last turn, so this Disdainful Stroke could go a long way. We'll see if they just have like a big score here. We may just want to counterspell that and then have like a really big turn with the Titan. So it looks like they are, so we'll keep them down to one card. We'll just counterspell that. All they have is Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, which is still a really powerful card, don't get me wrong, especially considering that we're both at a high life total. But I think we'll go ahead and just slam this Titan of Industry down. Getting a 4/4 Rhino and putting a actually we'll destroy the Kiki-Jiki and get a 4/4 Rhino. I was gonna say put a shield counter, but I think just 2 damage off of this will be fine too afterwards, and we'll go ahead and seal it up. Wow, this deck can really do some powerful things, huh? Titan of Industry is just like a slam dunk for sure, and Fable really brings it all together. Here for the post game on the deck. Yeah, as you saw in the games, pretty dominating, honestly. I think the only thing we really lost to on stream, from what I remember, was like a broker deck that ended up going crazy on us, but we took it to 3 games anyways, so... and I remember as well, we kind of got mana screwed a little bit in that, so... I think the deck overall is just really, really powerful. You're just trying to get down one of the best cards you could be playing in Standard, which is Titan of Industry. You're also trying to get down Goldspans, so... yeah, you get down some Goldspans, get down your Fables, protect them with the Fading Hopes, your Negates, even the Dwyer Disruptions if you need to, and yeah, I think overall the deck is just really, really powerful, and I definitely suggest this deck in any of the tournaments that are Standard format this weekend. I definitely suggest this deck on the ladder, as most of the time the competition on the ladder is not ready for this deck. Like I said earlier in the video, you just want to make sure you slow down and kind of just look through the lines and take the appropriate play patterns that need be to kind of help you win the game in the best possible manner. So I really appreciate you making it to the end of the video. Subscribe to the channel. That'd be really great. Leave a like down below and a comment as well. Definitely check out any links for my content and any links for the tournaments that we hold monthly. That'd be really, really great. It's going to all be in the description down below. And I hope that you stay cheesy.